Attorney General Eric Holder announced to employees at the Department of Justice earlier today that he would be resigning after a number of years as the first ever African-American Attorney General in U.S. history. A little bit later on today, both he and President Obama gave some of the reasons for why he left, what they thought his legacy would be, etc. Let's watch some of that.
And over the summer, he came to me and he said he thought 6 years was a pretty good run. I imagine his family agrees. And I know Brooke and Maya and Buddy are excited to get their dad back for a while. So this is bittersweet. But with his typical dedication, Eric has agreed to stay on as Attorney General until I nominate a successor. And that successor is confirmed by the Senate.
So, as they alluded to there will be a successor. There's no one chosen yet. The president is at least implying that he hasn't decided. Of course, we don't know if that's true, but he will be, Eric Holder will be staying on until at least the end of the year. He had some good words for him there, the president did. Also, Senator Patrick Leahy put out a statement about Eric Holder
the chairman
leaving.
of the judiciary.
Exactly, yeah, probably a good point. Attorney General Holder has been an extraordinary leader of the Department of Justice and is to be congratulated for his service. Under his leadership, the department has had remarkable success in convicting terrorists and disrupting threats to national security, while upholding the department's mission of keeping our communities safe from crime and fighting fraud. So, of course, he served for 6 years.
Fourth longest serving Attorney General in American history.
Mm-hmm. And he's known for, I guess, from the right's point of view, controversial positions on a number of different areas.
He is not controversial.
No, not from our point of view. I mean, the fact that he would no longer, they would no longer adjudicate cases involving DOMA, backing off slightly, at least on enforcing some of the federal marijuana laws. Obviously, very strong support for the Voting Rights Act. Now, he did uphold sort of the judicial framework that we've been using for over a decade in terms of prosecuting the war on terror. So it's a mixed bag in some areas, but of course he's going to do that.
Look, yeah, first of all, Obama sounds like an Obama impersonator now. Like, it sounds like a Saturday Night Live skit impersonating with the incredibly halted English, you know, and the cadence and the, you know, but I'm sure Buddy and Maya and Clifton be glad to have their dad back.
There's a little bit of Bush in there.
Totally wanted to do. I think he's doing a little bit of Bush. I think that this is given the circumstances that we live in, like, you want to be a radical progressive here, which of course I am sometimes, but you can be and find fault with the things that we didn't do. And you mentioned, most importantly, continuing essentially what we started on September 12, 2001 about the manner in which we prosecute the war on terror. But this was a guy who attempted to try the September 11th suspects in civilian court, which was, of course, the right thing to do.
Yeah, but it's portrayed as a crazy move for us to make that would endanger all of America.
So that didn't work out, but that became a politically unfeasible option. Now, could they have fought it longer? I guess, but there would have been significant cost to pay at that point. It's unpopular. It's crazy that it's unpopular. What are we afraid of? What the frick difference does it make? They're going to get convicted, right? Everybody knows it. There's no danger. We should believe in our system, and he was correct on that. You know, again, refusing to defend DOMA, as you mentioned, that was a big deal, a very big deal at that point. Suing North Carolina and Texas over voting restrictions, investigating police departments for abuse, playing a significant role in Ferguson in calming the situation down in Ferguson, and not by saying, everybody go home, you're radicals, but by saying, I hear you, this is serious, and we're going to investigate it. I'm on your side. I get what's happening here. And then it took a long time, and the first 4 years of the Obama administration contradicted what the Obama campaign said in 2008. But look, Washington and Colorado did it, and finally they were like, yeah, we're going to leave it alone. And now, as I know you're going to get to, he is saying, as on his way out the door, essentially words to the effect of, we have marijuana figured all wrong. And the federal government has it figured all wrong. But asking one attorney general to unwind 40 years of policy was tough. So overall, for Eric Holder, like A-, maybe a B+, because no real effort to sort of stop the madness of leaving guys hung out to dry without trial for as long as they did.
But possibly behind the scenes. I mean, we don't know what conversations he had with the president.
I feel like he was probably the guy on the right side even on those conversations. And he may have lost them, but my guess is that he sides with some degree of normalcy.
I really don't have any strong feelings about this story. It was more of a, oh, okay. But what I want to know is why he's resigning. I mean, he hasn't really given an answer. Has anyone heard any speculation or have any speculation of their own?
It's been 6 years.
There's fun speculation. He's the fourth longest serving attorney general there is. There's only two other members of the Obama cabinet who've been there the whole time. Also, Tom Vilsack and the person I'm forgetting. And in addition
You beat me
to
by one.
Huh?
You beat me by one.
Who was the other one? Damn it. Look, people don't generally stay that long. And say, Hillary Clinton left, and she didn't leave because she hated Obama. These jobs are hard, and they're backbreaking, and you can make a ton of money not having them. And the last 2 years of a presidency can be filled with, look, he got held in contempt of Congress for nothing. I imagine, you got some of this you have to think personally. Do I want to spend the next 2 years testifying before Darrell Issa?
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah.
It's not
He's
really.
weathered quite a bit of criticism and controversy so far. I think he paid his dues.
Yeah,
his
there's
family
nothing-
has had to stand by him through this entire thing. At some point, he
you know,
wants to leave.
there's always a possibility of health issues that he may want to address full time. I don't know, but that they wouldn't talk about. And then there's the fun possibility that if there is a Supreme Court nomination, then that he would be a candidate for it. He'd be a great Supreme Court justice. I'd love to have him on the court, but of course, he didn't have to quit being Attorney General to be nominated for the Supreme Court.
Yeah, especially when there's no current indication that anyone will be leaving, and the person that's most likely, I suppose, barring some health catastrophe, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, indicating in an interview earlier this week that she would not be leaving.
Interestingly, not leaving for and mentioning the very reason that people want her to leave, which was that if she leaves, it would give Obama an opportunity to appoint somebody else. And she's saying, "Hey, look, I read the papers, I watch the news. He's not getting anybody through. It's not going to happen." I don't know that she's right.
I don't agree with her there. I guess I'm sad to see him go, just because I don't feel like at this point in his presidency, Barack Obama is surrounded by many strong progressives, and I feel like at least on most issues, or the majority of issues, he is a force for good in that regard in the administration, and I don't know how much influence he has over the president. But
I think
with
a
him
lot.
leaving,
I think a lot.
Well, then it's even worse that he's leaving. I don't know who's going to replace him. I guess there's the possibility it will be someone more progressive, unless Obama switches into campaign mode really fast. I don't know that I see that happening. So overall, I think, look, his record is going to be seen, I think, in decades in the future as somewhat mixed, just because of elements out of his control. Like, he was strong in pushing for increased voting rights and things like that. Well, unfortunately, the Supreme Court decided to tear apart the Voting Rights Act, get rid of some parts of it. Obviously, nothing he can do about in regard to that, and he is trying to reinstate those in other ways. But that is a loss under his watch, I suppose.
Real quick, couple other things just before we move into some of the nonsense criticism of him, and it is nonsense. Lobbying Congress to reduce prison sentences for nonviolent drug crimes. He's on the right side of that. That matters. Just this week, sent a memo yesterday to U.S. attorneys telling them not to use sentencing enhancements known as 851 tools to gain leverage in plea negotiations. So you can't no longer in federal sentences threaten these guys with, hey, I'm telling you, plead guilty, get 10 years. You go try, you get 40.
Yeah.
40. They're like, don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Do your negotiations in good faith. Long-awaited racial profiling guidelines for federal agents will be released soon. Reading from NPR here, those guidelines will make sexual orientation, ethnicity, religion not legitimate bases for law enforcement suspicion. He's on the right side of a lot of issues.
He came out strong against SB 1070 in Arizona when we needed someone in the administration to do so.
Look, the manner in which we handle people in the war on terror is going to be, I think, a blight that the Bush and Obama administrations will bear together, and he's part of that. And that's what keeps him from getting an A.
We've known for a long time that he feels that the way that we prosecute the war on drugs in regards to marijuana has no real rational basis. And so here's a section from that interview. He said, "I think it's certainly a question that we need to ask ourselves whether or not marijuana is as serious a drug as is heroin. The question of whether or not they should be in the same category is something that I think we need to ask ourselves and use science as the basis for making that determination." Now, just to give a bit of background in terms of the different schedules of drugs, and it makes it so clear how ridiculous the current setup is. The DEA says Schedule 1 substances such as heroin and marijuana are considered the most dangerous class of drugs with a high potential for abuse and potentially severe psychological and/or physical dependence. Schedule 2 substances, such as cocaine and meth, are considered less dangerous, defined as drugs with a high potential for abuse, less abuse potential than Schedule 1 drugs, with use potentially leading to severe psychological or physical dependence.
So Schedule...
Meth, less dangerous.
It's amazing. So Schedule 1, high potential for abuse, and also no medicinal value recognized. So where's alcohol on that list? Is alcohol anywhere
Much
on there?
less dangerous.
It's not on the list at all. And so that first quote you read, whether or not marijuana is as serious a drug as heroin, that seems like a crazy thing to say. He's saying it in the context because they're both on Schedule 1.
No, exactly, yes.
Right, ahead of what he is clearly saying is, okay, it's not.
Yeah.
And it's time that we recognize that. And you mentioned, cocaine, meth, oxycodone, Adderall, Ritalin, Vicodin, those are all Schedule 2. Schedule 3 includes anabolic steroids, right? Marijuana is 2 classes away from that. Schedule 4 is Ambien. I have had some batshit stuff crazy happen to me on Ambien, and it's Schedule 4, and marijuana is Schedule 1. It's nuts, and he knows that. But part of the issue, and of course, the one reason that there's no medical value in Schedule 1 is because in Schedule 1 you can't do medical research on it.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah, look, some of those drugs on like Schedule 2, Schedule 3, they get a bad rap and they sound dangerous, but have you ever heard about anyone getting addicted to meth? Anyway,
by the way,
it's ridiculous. It needs to be fixed. He wasn't able to fix it during his time as AG, but I think that it could be coming up in the next few years.
Yeah, I think
possibly.
we're headed in the right direction when it comes to marijuana, especially when you have 2 states that have legalized it for recreational use. Alaska is, about to vote on recreational marijuana, whether or not they should legalize it. We're headed toward the right direction. We just got to keep fighting.